Picture this. You walk into the living room and there's a warm, sunny spot on the couch that your cat has claimed as their throne. You didn't even realize they were nearby. You sit down, and suddenly, out of nowhere, you get a hiss, a hard stare, maybe even a swat on the arm. Your own cat, the same one who was curled up in your lap an hour ago, is now looking at you like you just broke into their house. If this has ever happened to you, stick around, because the real reason behind this behavior is not what most pet owners think. And once you understand it, you'll never look at your cat's favorite spot the same way again. I'm a veterinarian, and today we're going to talk about why cats get so worked up when you sit in their favorite spot, what's actually going on in their mind and body when this happens, how to tell the difference between a minor grumble and a real warning sign, and most importantly, what you should actually do about it, because the wrong response can make this behavior a whole lot worse. Let's start with the truth that surprises almost every cat owner I talk to about this. Most people assume their cat is being spiteful or stubborn or even a little dramatic, like they're throwing a tantrum because you dared to sit somewhere they consider theirs. But that's not what's actually happening. Your cat isn't angry at you as a person. What they're reacting to is a disruption in their sense of safety, and that sense of safety is built almost entirely on scent. Here's something a lot of people don't realize about cats. They have scent glands concentrated around their cheeks, their chin, the base of their tail, and in between their paw pads. Every time your cat rubs their face against the corner of the couch, headbutts your hand, or needs a blanket before lying down, they're depositing a chemical signature, a kind of invisible message that says, "This is safe, this is mine, this is familiar." Scientists call these facial pheromones, and cats use them to build what you could think of as an invisible map of their territory, marking out the spots that feel secure. Your cat's favorite resting spot isn't just a comfortable cushion to them. It's a carefully built, scent-marked safe zone that represents hours, sometimes weeks, of that spot smelling exactly the way your cat wants it to smell. When you sit down in that exact spot, you're not just taking a seat. From your cat's point of view, you are physically altering the scent profile of their most trusted safe zone. Your body heat, your clothing, your own natural scent, even the products you use on your skin and hair, all of that gets layered on top of the careful scent map your cat spent time building. To us, it looks like nothing happened. To your cat, it can feel like someone rearranged the locks on their front door without telling them. This reaction actually traces back much further than your living room couch. Domestic cats descend from solitary hunters, animals that survived by controlling small, defined territories where they knew every inch, every hiding place, every escape route. Unlike dogs, who evolved from pack animals that depend heavily on social bonds and hierarchy, cats evolved to rely on personal territory for their sense of security. A wild cat's survival often depended on knowing their patch of land better than any predator or rival could. That instinct didn't disappear just because your cat now lives on a couch instead of in a forest. It's still running quietly in the background of their brain every single day, and it's a huge part of why territorial behavior around favorite spots is so common and so consistent across almost every house cat, regardless of breed or personality. Now, here's where it gets interesting, because not every cat reacts to this disruption the same way, and understanding your specific cat's response style can tell you a lot about their personality and stress tolerance. Some cats will simply get up, give you an unimpressed look, and relocate to another spot, more annoyed than anything else. Other cats might let out a low grumble or a short, sharp meow, basically a verbal complaint before they decide whether to stay or go. And then there are cats who take it much more seriously, responding with flattened ears, a swishing tail, a hiss, or even a quick swat, treating the disruption as a genuine territorial challenge rather than a minor inconvenience. This range of reactions comes down to a mix of genetics, early kittenhood socialization, past experiences, and even how much control your cat feels they have over their environment overall. A cat who has plenty of resources, several safe resting spots, consistent routines, and low daily stress is much more likely to shrug off a disrupted spot with mild annoyance. A cat who feels like their environment is already unpredictable, maybe due to a recent move, a new pet, a chaotic household, or not enough safe vertical or hidden spaces, is much more likely to react defensively when one of their few reliable safe zones gets disturbed. Let's talk about how to actually read these warning signs, because I really want you to be able to recognize the buildup before it turns into a hiss or a swat, since that gives you the chance to respond calmly instead of getting caught off guard. Watch the ears first. Ears that are slightly rotated back or flattened to the sides, sometimes called airplane ears, are an early sign of irritation or discomfort. The tail is another huge indicator. A tail that's swishing slowly back and forth or thumping against the surface they're lying on is a clear signal that your cat's patience is running thin. Dilated pupils, a stiffened body posture, or a low, tense crouch are all signs that your cat is winding up toward a bigger reaction. If you see these signals, that's actually good news in a strange way, because it means you have a window to back off calmly before things escalate to an actual hiss or swat. I also want to address something important here, because this topic isn't just about behavior, it's about your cat's health too. If your cat has always been relatively easygoing about sharing their space, and they suddenly start reacting aggressively, not just to you sitting in their spot, but to being touched, approached, or handled in general, that sudden change in temperament is something I want you to pay close attention to. Cats are incredibly good at hiding pain and discomfort. It's an old survival instinct, since showing weakness in the wild made them a target. Conditions like arthritis, dental disease, urinary tract infections, and in older cats, hyperthyroidism or cognitive decline can all cause a previously mellow cat to become irritable, defensive, or quicker to react aggressively to things that never used to bother them. So if this behavior feels new, sudden, or is escalating rapidly, please don't just chalk it up to your cat being dramatic. That's exactly the kind of change that deserves a proper veterinary checkup, because treating an underlying medical issue can often resolve the behavior completely. Assuming there's no underlying medical cause, and this is simply a territorial personality quirk, let's talk about what you should actually do, because I want to be really clear about a few things you should avoid, because they tend to make this behavior worse, not better. Please don't punish your cat for this reaction. I know it can feel instinctive to scold them, maybe with a loud no or a spray bottle, but punishment doesn't teach your cat that the behavior is inappropriate. It just teaches them that you specifically are now an additional unpredictable and stressful factor in their environment. This often makes territorial and defensive aggression worse over time, not better, because you're adding fear and confusion into an already tense moment. Please also avoid picking up your cat in the middle of an aggressive or agitated moment, even if your instinct is to physically move them off the furniture or calm them down with a hug. A cat that's already aroused and defensive is far more likely to redirect that aggression onto whoever is closest, which in that moment is your hands and arms. Give them space and time to settle instead. So what should you actually do? First, respect the early warning signs. The moment you notice those flattened ears or that swishing tail, calmly back away and give your cat room. This isn't you losing a battle for the couch. This is you communicating, in a language your cat actually understands, that you respect their boundaries, which over time builds trust rather than eroding it. Second, and this is one of the most effective long-term solutions, give your cat multiple safe resting spots throughout your home, not just one prime location. Cats feel less territorially defensive over any single spot when they have several reliable, comfortable, scent-marked areas to retreat to. This might mean adding a cat tree near a window, a soft bed in a quiet corner, or even just a blanket on a piece of furniture that's consistently theirs. The goal is to reduce the pressure on any one location being the only safe zone in their entire world. Third, consider using a feline facial pheromone diffuser, which are widely available at pet stores and online. These products release a synthetic version of the same calming facial pheromone your cat naturally produces when they feel safe and content. Placing one near your cat's favorite resting areas can help reduce the overall tension and defensive behavior around those spots, especially in multi-pet households or homes going through a stressful transition like a move or a new family member. Fourth, if you do need to sit somewhere your cat considers their spot, try not to make it a surprise. Speak to them gently as you approach, move slowly, and let them choose to relocate on their own terms rather than suddenly sitting down right where they are. A little bit of predictability goes a long way in preventing that startled defensive reaction in the first place. Fifth, keep your cat's overall environment as enriched and low stress as possible. Regular play sessions, consistent feeding times, and predictable daily routines all reduce your cat's baseline stress level, which in turn makes them less reactive to smaller disruptions like a shared cushion. A cat who feels secure in their broader environment is far less likely to go on the defensive over any single spot. I also want to gently mention that if this territorial behavior is happening between your cat and another pet in the home, not just between your cat and you, the same core principles apply, but the solution usually requires a bit more structure. Multiple litter boxes, separate feeding stations, and plenty of vertical space like cat trees and shelves can go a long way toward reducing resource competition and territorial conflict between cats sharing a home. Let's also talk a little more about why some cats seem to guard their spot fiercely while their littermate, raised in the exact same household, couldn't care less if you sat right on top of them. A huge part of this comes down to what we call the critical socialization window, which happens roughly between 2 and 7 weeks of age. Kittens who were gently handled, exposed to a variety of people, sounds, and safe experiences during this window tend to grow into more confident, flexible adult cats who don't feel as threatened by small disruptions to their environment. Kittens who missed out on this early exposure, whether because they were strays, came from a less attentive breeding situation, or were separated from their mother too early, often grow up with a lower overall stress threshold. For these cats, even minor changes, like their favorite cushion smelling different, can tip them into a defensive reaction much faster than a cat with a more secure early start in life. This is also why I always encourage new kitten owners to prioritize calm, positive early experiences, because you're not just shaping a cute personality, you're actually building your cat's long-term stress resilience. If you've adopted an adult cat with an unknown history and they seem particularly reactive about territory, know that this isn't something you did wrong. It's simply a reflection of experiences that happened before they ever came into your life, and with patience, consistency, and the strategies we've talked about today, most cats can become noticeably more relaxed over time. I also want to spend a moment on a related situation that trips up a lot of pet owners, which is confusing territorial aggression with redirected aggression. Sometimes your cat isn't actually upset about you sitting in their spot at all. Instead, they might have been startled or agitated by something else entirely, another cat walking past the window, an unfamiliar noise outside, or even a bird they couldn't reach. Because they can't direct that frustration at the actual source, they redirect it onto whatever or whoever happens to be nearby, which might just be you sitting down at the wrong moment. This is why it's so important to look at the bigger picture and not just the immediate moment. If your cat suddenly seems tense around a window and then reacts aggressively a few minutes later when you sit near them, the real trigger might have nothing to do with the spot itself. One more thing I want to mention, because I think it's genuinely fascinating, is how consistent this scent-based territorial instinct is across the entire cat family, not just house cats. Researchers studying wild and feral cat populations have observed very similar scent marking and territory guarding behaviors, just on a much larger geographic scale. Your living room couch and a wild cat's forest clearing are functioning on the exact same underlying psychological principle, just at a completely different size. Understanding this can genuinely change how you see your cat's little quirks. That dramatic hiss over a cushion isn't random or excessive from your cat's perspective. It's the exact same instinct that has kept their species alive and thriving for thousands of years, just showing up in a much cozier, much less dangerous setting. Before we wrap up, I want to give you one more practical tip that a lot of pet owners find genuinely helpful. Keep a simple mental note, or even a quick log on your phone, of which specific spots in your home seem to trigger the strongest reactions from your cat, and under what circumstances. Is it only when you sit down suddenly? Only during certain times of day? Only when another pet is also nearby? Patterns like this can help you predict and gently prevent conflict before it happens. And if you ever do need to describe the behavior to your veterinarian, having specific observed patterns will be far more useful than simply saying your cat gets aggressive sometimes. Now, I know some of you watching this are thinking, does this mean my cat doesn't actually love me since they're treating me like an intruder over a couch cushion? And I want to put your mind at ease here because the answer is no, not even close. This territorial instinct and the bond your cat has with you exist on two completely different tracks in their brain. A cat can be deeply attached to you, seek out your company, sleep near you, and trust you completely, while still having an ancient hardwired reflex about protecting a specific scent-marked location. This isn't a reflection of how they feel about you as their person. It's simply an old survival instinct that hasn't caught up with the fact that they live in a safe, comfortable home with someone who loves them. Let me give you a quick recap of everything we've covered today, so you can walk away with a clear, simple understanding of this behavior. Your cat's favorite spot is a carefully built, scent-marked safe zone, not just a comfortable cushion, and sitting in it can feel like a disruption to their sense of security, not a personal insult toward you. This instinct traces back to your cat's evolutionary history as a solitary territorial hunter, which is very different from a dog's more social pack-based instincts. Watch for early warning signs like flattened ears, a swishing tail, dilated pupils, or a tense crouch, and use those signals as your cue to calmly give your cat space before things escalate. If this behavior is new, sudden, or seems to be getting worse across many situations, not just this one, please schedule a veterinary visit because pain, dental disease, and other medical conditions can all cause sudden changes in temperament. Avoid punishing your cat for this reaction, and avoid picking them up while they're already agitated, since both tend to make the underlying tension worse. Instead, focus on giving your cat multiple safe resting spots. Consider a pheromone diffuser, approach shared spaces predictably rather than suddenly, and keep their overall environment enriched and low stress. And most importantly, remember that this behavior is not a reflection of your cat's love for you. It's an old, deeply wired survival instinct quietly running in the background, completely separate from the very real bond you two share. If you found this helpful, share it with another cat owner who's been on the receiving end of a surprise hiss from their favorite couch companion. Drop a comment and tell me about your cat's favorite spot and how dramatic they get about it. I read every single one. And if you want more science-backed, practical explanations like this one about your cat's behavior, make sure you're subscribed because there's a lot more where this came from. Give your cat a little extra space on their throne today, and I'll see you in the next video.